Hey, Patrick, how you doing, bud?
Not too bad at all, buddy. So, what have you for me today?
Well, we're going to be watching Undivided with Brandi Kruse. We're going to be talking about some of the new policies that the socialist mayor of Seattle, Ms. Katie Wilson, is going to be imposing or not imposing. There seems to be some gray area here, and I think that's where this becomes the most fun. So we're going to let her cook a little bit.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I remember we did a video on that and that lady.
Yes,
I said we give her a few months, but looks like she's already hit the ground running. So let's see what she has to say.
All right.
In the middle of it as well. So on Sunday, there's all these news reports, most of them from conservative-leaning outlets saying Seattle is about to de facto decriminalize drugs. And, you know, I think that it caught on pretty fast because we have a new socialist mayor, Katie Wilson. And so people picked it up on the right everywhere. I mean, libs of TikTok.
So that'd be Sunday, I believe, the 11th of January 2026 is when the conservative side decided to start picking the stuff up and start to roll it. So we'll let her finish what they found. They feel they found.
TikTok, it said less than a week into her role as Seattle mayor, Katie Wilson reportedly ordered the city's police to stop arresting people for open drug use. Fox News, Seattle leaders slammed for police order to stop prosecuting drug users, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that happened Sunday into Monday a little bit. And then on Monday, all the left-wing and mainstream news outlets are like, what are the right-wingers talking about? That's not true at all. Seattle's mayor hasn't said anything about this. Police are still going to arrest drug users. Let's see, the communists over at the Burner. No, Katie Wilson did not tell Seattle police to stop arresting people for public drug use. Right-wingers online spreading unsubstantiated claims that Mayor Katie Wilson has told SPD to stop arresting people. Como News, Seattle mayor denies police guilt allegations of open drug use, arrest suspension, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, man, if I were just a run-of-the-mill news consumer, I would have been like, this is very confusing.
Well, most of these things get confusing, right?
They do, yeah, because everyone has their own kind of take on everything over there.
Well, yeah, everybody's
that's right. It would be very confusing because you're seeing multiple different headlines. So I presume she dug through them.
Right, they're mutually exclusive. One is saying yes, you did, and the other one is saying no, you didn't. The truth is going to be in the middle somewhere, obviously.
Somewhere, yeah. That's what I've always said. You know, when we're looking up these type of videos, and we always try to find the original clip if we can.
Right.
See what was actually said.
But this is a lot of hyperbole, right? There's a lot of, oh my God, the worst thing ever is happening. The other side's going, it's not the worst thing ever. And then a lot of times we find that the one side says, well, it's not happening. And then you say, no, it is happening. And then they say, well, why do you care? Well, because it's costing constituents money, or it's unsafe, or, you know what I'm saying? There's a reason that the public
and sometimes when we look up the original clip, it's a nothing burger. It's just it's just like a slow news day, and they just decide to make something up sometimes as well.
Burger with ketchup and onions, right? Ugh.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right, let's let Brandi Kruse clear this up a little bit for us.
Yes.
It is quite confusing, isn't it? Allow us to set the record straight, and as normal, the truth is somewhere in the middle. But it also takes some institutional knowledge, a little bit of nuance, the ability to not be too obtuse, to get to the bottom of what's happening and to understand what is the actual outcome of this going to be.
I got to say something. I think her hair is absolutely perfect. Look at her hair. How good is her hair, right?
You know what? You say that every single time we cover her. You know that.
The hair's good. I got it. Props to the hair. Props to the hair. It's well done. Well done. There we go.
And I will say that we were given by a source an email that Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes sent out a couple days ago that did seem to suggest there was some there. So we got that email. We knew that it wasn't a completely manufactured story, that there was going to be some changes in the way that drug crimes were handled in the city of Seattle. So let me put all the pieces together for you, and I'll give you all the receipts along the way so everyone fully understands what's happening here. And at the back end, I'll give you some institutional knowledge of times in the city's history where this sort of policy has happened before, has been.
Right. So institutional knowledge is a pretty important thing, right? So I live in California. You live in Ireland. So in the county in which you live, you understand what the TDs are about, what the local council is doing and stuff like that. So
pretty much,
Her big thing is she works in the state of Washington to expose what it is she can expose as far as fraud and other issues in the state of Washington, right? So her institutional knowledge for her area is going to be, her acumen is just going to be way better than yours or mine. I think it's pretty interesting the way she develops this, and the receipts are actually pretty good. And you're going to see some bureaucratic backlog that's going to be put in the system that's going to really, really cause some issues if you work it through to its logical conclusion. So
yeah, okay.
In place before, and what we can expect it to mean for drug abuse and homelessness in the city. Okay, cool, on the same page, great. So the new city attorney, Eric Evans, she's definitely further to the left than the previous city attorney. She campaigned that way. Not a surprise. She's going to be more hands-off on criminals. She put out a memo to the Seattle City Attorney's Office Criminal Division internally. She said, effective January 1st, consistent with legislative intent, upon receipt of a knowing possession or public use police report from an SPD officer.
So that's knowing possession of drugs or drug paraphernalia, or actually using drugs in public. So that's what that knowing possession or public use is about. Right.
Okay.
So when they receive it, there's something they got to do with it. Let's see what they're going to do with it.
The case prep team or the reviewing assistant city prosecutor should immediately refer the case to the law enforcement assisted diversion liaison team prior to any filing action.
So before the district attorney is going to file criminal charges against an individual, it has to go through this new agency that's been created, or this agency that's going to be expanded because it already exists, right?
Right.
So what they're doing is they're setting it up so this is the entity that's going to choose to either prosecute or not prosecute before it gets sent to the DA, for the DA to make the decision to either prosecute or not prosecute, which is actually the DA's function. So there's been an obstacle put in the way. Is
it an obstacle, or are they just trying to clear off their desk with all the small Mickey Mouse cases and just shove them down somewhere else so they can prosecute the bigger cases?
It's the DA's job and the DA's office, the district attorney's office, to do exactly what this team is designed to do.
So is this a team within the DA's office?
I don't think so.
It sounds like it.
The assistant city
sounds
prosecutor.
Very much.
Oh, okay. So let's go to the lead team.
Yeah. Right. So I'm presuming this is a team within the district attorney's office, probably dealing with all these small, little, tiny cases, and that frees up the bigger attorneys to go on and do bigger cases.
Don't know. Yeah. It doesn't make sense to tell the DA to run their shop in a way that they're not already running it, though. Right? The DA was elected to do a thing, but now the
maybe she's just shaking things up a bit. So that's what it sounds like to me, but obviously we'll go into further details.
Yeah, it sounds like another obstacle put in the way of making or generating criminal charges. That's what it feels like.
I think it might be a lot. I think it's not as complicated as that. I think it's just they have probably so many of these little tiny Mickey Mouse cases coming in that they want to shove them onto another department, so it'll free up the main department to do main criminal cases. Maybe that's their thinking behind this.
It seems like they're generating more processes that don't need to be in place. That's what it feels like. So it feels like generating processes to work processes as opposed to achieving goals.
Maybe. We'll see what she has to say about it.
Okay.
The lead liaison team will assess previous attempts at engagement with the referred individual in consultation with lead. If the referred individual has failed to demonstrate a sustained level or engagement with the lead program or has refused to engage with a lead case manager, the lead liaison will assess the most suitable subsequent action in consultation with the criminal division chief. Let's take everything on face value for now, okay? And then I'll get into my opinion and the nuance of this situation and in practice what the policy will do. So on face value, what the new city attorney is saying and what she's directing her prosecutors to do is if a Seattle police officer refers a drug possession case to you, the first step is to... So those are the only two things that are absolutely definitive. In writing, no one can twist them in any sort of way. The Seattle city attorney is saying, if people are arrested for drug possession or drug use, we're going to try...
That was an actual chop in her video. So
yeah,
after looking at it, it looks like it is a process that's put into place to attempt to help those who are picked up for public use or paraphernalia or whatever to be referred to the lead team for the lead team to discern what the next course of action is going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it going to be a warning? Is it going to be a fine? Is it going to be a full-on criminal case?
If it's going to be prosecuted at all.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Going to be prosecuted at all right, here we go.
Okay. Try diversion first. And if diversion hasn't worked in the past, we're going to explore what other option we might do. I mean, and I don't.
Right. So diversion is putting them into a substance abuse facility, or getting with their family and seeing if there's some assets there.
Are they a first-time offender? And so, there's loads of different options.
So,
on the table.
If those things don't work, then they're going to decide what the thing is to do. But it looks like it puts a delay in the process for those who should more than likely be criminally charged for the act, as it is a criminal act, right?
Yes, I understand what they're. I understand the spirit of what they're trying to do, but in reality, I do agree with you. This has caused delays in the system.
Right, and at the end of the day, these are quality of life crime type things. It's things you can choose to or not choose to do, right? If you have agency and you're in charge of yourself, you can choose not to do the drugs. But we all know that addiction is horrific, and once you go down the road, it's not easy to get away from.
It's a very, very, very difficult disease to treat. Very difficult.
So let's see what Ms. Kruse has to say.
I don't know if they're going to prosecute or what it's going to be, but diversion first. And in his email, the chief of police is saying what the city attorney said, which is, if we send them a case, this is what they're going to do with it. So he's telling his officers as much. So the headlines centered around Katie Wilson, the new socialist mayor. I do wonder if part of that is because people don't understand that the city attorney doesn't work for the mayor. The city attorney was elected separately. The city attorney can do whatever she wants. The mayor cannot direct the city attorney. You can't prosecute drug cases.
Right. They're both elected officials. One is running the city, and the other one is running the legal apparatus of that city.
Yes, but I think she's right. I think a lot of the people who reported on this lumped them both together.
Right.
And I think that was very unfair for the mayor, because, as she was saying, they're both separate departments who don't work for each other.
Right. But the health of your city is going to be based on both of their performances as well, right?
Obviously, yes, but as people have to realize, they're both completely separate individuals elected separately.
Right. One's dealing with budgeting and the actual running of the apparatus of the city, and the other one is ensuring the legal protections of its citizens and ensuring that those who need to be criminally prosecuted get criminally prosecuted.
But what I think she's right. I think if you look at a lot of the right-leaning reporting on a lot of this stuff, is anything, no matter what this mayor does, even if she solved all the problems in her city, they're going to find something wrong. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So the city attorney, though, is deciding to take a diversion approach. But the mayor, Katie Wilson, was on with our friend John Curley over on Kyra Radio, and she said for her part at the mayor's office, there's been no policy change.
There's been no policy change. There was an email from Police Chief Barnes internally, which I think was misinterpreted, but the policy remains what it has been, which is we have an ordinance in Seattle around drug use and possession, and currently officers basically use their discretion around when it's appropriate to do an arrest. We have award-winning diversion programs, and those can be invoked before an arrest, before a booking, before a trial. And really, the bottom line comes down to we're looking for an approach which is using the right strategy in the right circumstances, and that is making sure that we are getting people the help that they need. And there's a lot of different situations out there, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So that's what we're trying to get to. But we have not made any change in policy. We have not discussed any change in policy, and that's where things are at.
Now, a little bit of word soup there, right? But she's saying, hey, it's not on us. But it wouldn't be anyway, unless the mayor helps the city council pass some sort of new laws on drug possession and drug use that prohibit prosecution. It's up to the city attorney. So these are the facts, right, as we know them.
Right. So unless that mayor says the city council is going to generate ordinances and things that are directly affecting public use or having paraphernalia or actually drugs on your person, stuff like that, the city attorney is going to run their shop the way they run their shop, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like there's a big divide between those two currently as to what the goals are. She just said, if there's diversion tactics before booking or any of these things that we can use to attempt to help these people, let's help these people. It was a bit wordy, but that's what she was saying. So
try to find alternatives instead of just locking them up to see if we can get them treatment and so on and get them, make them upstanding citizens. I understand. Yeah.
But Seattle looks like a bomb hit it. It's not great. So.
And they ended up getting pretty twisted, frankly, by both sides. Getting pretty twisted with Katie Wilson being blamed for it, being pretty twisted by the left and saying, what are you talking about? Officers are still going to arrest people for substance abuse. Nothing's changed. There is a change here. So now we know the facts. Now we're going to get into what exactly it means, because we've been through a period of time like this in the city of Seattle before.
Right. They had ordinances like this before, and they had set up other teams that were supposed to perform this function in the past, specifically the same way that they're trying to do this again. Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Former city attorney Pete Holmes, he took a very hands-off approach to prosecuting drug offenders. And diversion was very popular, this idea. And look, on its face, that's great, right? I don't know if any of us want the very first thing to be, you're going to jail tonight. Most of us will say we should try to get them, even if you do send them to jail, we should try to get them some sort of help for their substance abuse issue.
Well, understanding that addiction is super, super difficult to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And some sort of help is pretty vague, right? But I get what she's saying. It's a broad stroke approach, right? Let's get them some help. But then there's going to have to be functional programs where you can see with evidentiary value that this is a thing that works. Like, this is a program that works, right?
Like, realistically, we all know the figures of drug use and the treatment and how it might work in 1 in 10 at the best of cases.
Right. Well,
I know that doesn't sound overly optimistic, but that's usually when it comes to heroin, it's usually 1 in 10.
You and I have both worked with that community in the past.
Yeah.
It takes 5, 6, 7, 8 times to go to a substance abuse program for it to stick for even 2 or 3 years, right? So in that process, we still have these people who are committing these crimes in these places, right?
And the sad thing is, even we know that the more often they go to treatment and more often it doesn't work, the percentages of them actually succeeding in the end keep going down.
Right.
There's a lot of, I always think that if you nip the drug supply if you get rid of the drug supply, you usually solve a lot of these problems.
Not easy to do with cartels and things, especially on the west coast of the United States.
Yeah, it's nearly impossible.
Yep.
And then people turn around and say, oh, you can't kind of lock up the users. But sometimes, unfortunately, it's the only option to save them and their community is to lock them up.
Well, the jail and prison communities on the west coast are rife with drug use. Use. So,
yeah.
Right. Let's let her get to cooking again.
Yeah.
But the problem is, attempts at diversion through law enforcement assisted diversion in the past haven't been successful. And also during that period of time in the city of Seattle, when the city attorney was known and was saying publicly that we're not prosecuting people for simple drug possession, what did the officers do in response? Well, they said, well, if you're not prosecuting it, we're not going to waste our time. So they decided, we're going to focus our attention on making arrests of people who are going to be prosecuted. And so the result was de facto drug decriminalization. This isn't some brand new thing. This we've gone through all this before.
That's a fact. They've done exactly this policy. And the results were not great, right? If you tell local law enforcement that if you effect arrest, there will not be a prosecution, they're not going to waste their time. They're just not.
No.
Right? Because it's not achieving the goal. They want that individual clean, healthy, off the street, making a good life. But if the decision they're making is to just shoot dope in their arm on the side of the road, if there's no prosecution, then there isn't really a compelling reason to arrest the person, right?
Yeah, but the problem is open air drug markets, if they're allowed to kind of fester in your community, it's not a good thing either.
Well, right, because it's a place of violence and the worst kind of violence against women, right? It's just
and not only that, but everything within a 5-mile radius, roughly, will be robbed, will be picked clean.
Yeah, it's an area of economic bomb. Yeah, it's not good.
No, it's not.
And I think that is the point that the president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild was trying to make when he put out this statement, Mike Solon. He said, the recent naive, ignorant political decision to not arrest offenders for open drug use in the city of Seattle is horrifically dangerous and will create more death and societal decay. It embodies an enormous...
That's what you were talking about, the societal decay. And it's like an area of effect thing. Yeah. It's the broken window theory, right? If my neighbor doesn't fix a broken window, why the hell am I going to mow my lawn, right? And then it just goes downhill from there.
It goes out, and it's not just that, it also has a knock-on effect, not just on crime, but on the social aspect as well. When you have young people growing up in an area like that, are more likely to do drugs themselves, or join gangs and do violence and so on. It's a massive knock-on effect. There has to be seen to be cause and effect in any society.
Flaw in those in our community who think that meeting people where they are, who are in the throes of addiction, is the correct path to lift them up. This is wrong and is commonly referred to as suicidal empathy.
If you have not researched suicidal empathy, it's a very, very interesting thing to get into. You sometimes need to ensure that the rules are followed to the T. Sometimes there's room for leniency, but if you're lenient in every situation, you'll be taken advantage of. This is a societal level of taking advantage of.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. There is a time and place to use empathy, but you also have to use a heavy hand as well to govern your society.
In some instances, for sure. Send it to conversation cops, right?
Yeah.
Know that the LEAD program supports this ideology and they don't want to refer cases. It is a waste of time. We've all seen how our streets can be filled with death, decay, blight, and crime when ideology like this infects our city. Now, with this resurrected insane direction, death, destruction, and more human suffering will be supercharged.
Just like it was before. They're just going down the same path. They're just going down the same path.
Yeah. And that's the sad thing is about an awful lot of these. They're trying to do good, but I don't think they quite realize the depth of the problem. I normally find that, when I see people like this, especially this Attorney General and the mayor and the whole lot, they come from very privileged backgrounds.
City attorney, not Attorney General. Also, I believe that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I might have heard that somewhere before.
But the sad thing is, an awful lot of these people who put these policies in place have never grown up in areas like this.
Right. They've never been at the pointy end of the spear looking at it.
Yeah. They've never woken up anymore. Yeah. They've never woken up, walked out of their house, and there's a guy outside doing dope. You know, they haven't grown up in those type of neighborhoods.
Right.
So they're trying to look at this through rose-tinted glasses. And they're, as she said, they're going down a very bad road.
Well, it just feels like they're completely divorced from reality, is what you're saying. Like,
but you normally get that with an awful lot of, say, well, I'm not picking on the Democrats, but yeah, an awful lot of the Democrats would be coming from privileged middle class backgrounds. Very few of them. I can name maybe one or two even elected Democrats who come from a poorer background, but the vast majority of them are very well to do. Same as, by the way, don't get me wrong, but most of the politicians in the States are very well to do people who have not grown up in this kind of neighborhood.
Right. And there's a template to succeed in the political structure of the United States. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, go to law school, meet the people, do this, do that, and then eventually I'm on the road to being a representative or whatever.
Exactly. They go to the right schools, they meet the right people, and they go, they come from the right families and so on. They have a certain, they're not poor people. They're not the normal working class Joe getting elected. You know what I mean? No matter how much they try to pretend, no matter how much some of them try to pretend they are.
By changing their voices to sound like they're from an area that they're not, or
exactly. I'm thinking like I'm actually thinking of Bernie Sanders at the moment. He's always on about Kamala Harris. I think the only one that I've ever come across that halfway pulled her bootstraps up was AOC. She started off as a waitress and then worked her way up to get elected and so on. She came from a poor type background. But the rest of them, vast majority of them, especially on the Republican side, are very wealthy people.
Pretty much. And even the mid-level Democrats are the same way, because they just have never had to deal with violence or...
Exactly. I'm not picking on either party over there. The vast majority of them come from very wealthy backgrounds, including Bernie Sanders, by the way. From a very, very, very wealthy side of the tracks, so to say. It's just, I always find it funny when I see people like this trying to say the lower end of society, this is the way you should live, and this is how we're going to handle you.
Yeah, we're going to help
not
you.
Knowing how,
right.
Yeah, not knowing you're causing more harm than good. Yeah, they don't really understand how things are working.
Completely divorced from reality. Yeah. All right.
Oh, exactly.
He's right. So there's this blame game again between the left and the right about what technically is the change here. But we have to look past that, right? Let's not be too obtuse. Let's look past it and say, what is the realistic impact going to be? If you have day one on the job, the new top prosecutor for the city saying that we're not going to go through traditional prosecution when it comes to someone who's out in the open using drugs. That is a signal of de facto decriminalization.
Do you think that's realistic? Do you think that that looks like de facto decriminalization? If we're going to put institutional barriers in place?
Yeah. I understand she's dead right, but as it comes back to them trying to do the same BS that every other city and every other country has tried before when it comes to open air drug markets.
Right.
They try to keep going back to the softy approach. It doesn't work for the most part. No matter where you are in the world, it doesn't work.
No, it can't work because, again, those who want to will just continue to defraud the system in some kind of way.
And by the way, them tying an arm behind the backs of their police officers is not going to help matters either.
No, and
that's going to cause more issues.
Right. We did an episode with the guy from SPOG who a lot of their guys can retire. A lot of their police force can retire. Right. And then the new ones are coming up and they're not going to have the experience because the veterans are going to be like, I'm not going to do this because I've been through this before. And I know what this looks like and I know what happens, And he was saying, I mean, all we can do is hope that things are going to work out. But it looks like the city attorney has said, you know what, we're going to try some old things that didn't work last time. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're going to go back to a period of time in the city of Seattle where police just looked the other way because they knew that there wasn't going to be any repercussion for this individual. If we spent hours and hours arresting them, booking them, writing the paperwork, and all of these things.
Right. It becomes a consequence-free space for those who decide they want to do drugs out in the open. Right.
Yeah. And that's going to cause an awful lot of issues. She's right. It's going to cause a lot more issues. It keeps going back to the naivety of a lot of these elected officials.
Yeah.
It's just, they're trying to be too soft. You can't be. Not when it comes to the law.
Not on this kind of thing, no.
No.
And the Chief Sean Barnes email, he said in the email that nothing was changing for officers, that he was simply letting them know that it'll be the policy of the city attorney's office to refer the cases for diversion rather than traditional prosecution. And he said in the email, my expectation is that officers will continue to charge individuals for drug use or possession when appropriate, which I don't know why he uses that because police don't charge people with crimes. They arrest people. So maybe that's what he meant. He said, for example, when the activity occurs in public view or when probable cause for arrest is established, our mission remains unchanged, and we fully support programs and policies aimed at reducing recidivism and breaking the cycle of repeated criminal justice involvement. But officers have discretion on the street every single day, and they use that discretion. And if they know, I did a ride-along, I'll never forget this. It was one of the first ride-alongs I did as a young reporter covering crime. This is like 15 years ago. And Pete Holmes was the city attorney at the time. And I was with some officers, and we were in a patrol car, and we were driving down an alleyway near Pike Place Market, so in downtown Seattle. And there's this guy in sort of an alcove, and he's got a pipe, I'm assuming, smoking something in it, obviously. And he's like literally smoking it in front of the cops. And I'm like 22 years old or something, and this is the first time I've seen somebody using drugs out in the open, and I'm thinking, go get him. Like, go get him. And the officers just keep driving. And I'm like, what are we doing? And they're like, well, the city attorney isn't going to prosecute that person. So it would be a waste of our time to spend.
Right. So a lot of that's to do with if you know there's not going to be any consequences for the individual, and then you're going to have to put in hours and hours and hours of labor.
Yeah.
Right. And it's it becomes unsafe actually to get continued contact with the same people when they're just going to get dumped out, because then they're going to feel like they're getting harassed when they should have been charged for something before, but because of policy, they just get released back out on the street. Right.
Yeah, it's very, very disheartening as ever police officer.
Very disconcerting, because you're trying to do a job to keep the public safe. This individual is doing something that is unsafe to themselves, but unsafe in general to the culture and society in which they reside. Right.
Yeah.
Time arresting and booking them. So that is the mindset, and I can't blame officers for that. That time, especially when they're so short-staffed, is it not better spent making arrests for crimes that are actually going to be prosecuted, especially when they know that law enforcement-assisted diversion has been a mess. There's no follow-through. It's disorganized. You're just letting somebody off the hook, and they never get better. So, you know, between the two narratives, the narrative being pushed by the right and the narrative being pushed, you know, by the right that, oh my gosh, you know, this is going to be a free-for-all with drugs, and the narrative being pushed by the left, which is nothing to see here, folks. The reality is somewhere in the middle, but clearly they are taking a softer approach to drug abuse. They are taking the, oh, let us help you up. Let us help you and coddle you. Fentanyl abuser. That's the approach, and that's not a surprise. Why are we all acting surprised by this? You elected a socialist as the mayor. You elected a uber progressive as the city attorney, replacing a Republican. So nobody should be surprised that now, the 6th day of January, we're learning that there's going to be a softer hand on drug prosecutions. So I hope that helps you understand the confusion, quote unquote, that took place, the different sort of characterizations of what's happening. We are absolutely going to enter a period of time where there's more open air drug abuse. And as a result, because the drug abuse fuels the homelessness crisis, there's a worse homeless crisis.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
she is very, she is right there. It's going to have a massive social knock-on effect.
What I'm not seeing there is solutions, though. I would like some kind of proposed solution for this, but we're going to have to watch it fail again, and then they'll have to.
I think the sad thing is, no matter what country has tried this before, the soft approach, it hasn't worked. The hard approach doesn't really work out that way. There's no perfect way of dealing with this type of issue.
No, not even close.
There is no perfect solution, but leaving an open air drug market operate is not the solution.
No, that is the wrong answer, actually.
That has tried to be worked, not just in Seattle, it's tried to work all over the world, the soft approach. It doesn't work, because it has a massive knock-on effect to everyone around. That entire, whatever part of that city is in, is going to become a no-go zone very quick.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For
for sure. So, yeah. All right, for Pat McCallum, I'm Alex Johansson. Ring the bell, like the like. Please subscribe and help us beat the algorithm. We're the A&P Gents, and we are out.